Hey listener, just a quick note before we start. Today's episode of Separate Bathrooms contains discussions of eating disorders. The chat starts around the 15:35 mark of the podcast. If this raises any issues for you, please feel free to skip forward a few minutes to the next section of the conversation. We've included links and phone numbers for Lifeline and the Butterfly Foundation in the description of this episode. Off we go.
It's okay to have quiet times. It's okay to be bored together sometimes. You don't have to be perfect all the time. And I think that's great. It makes it exciting. It makes you appreciate, when you're having a great time. And you are allowed to have challenges. I think that makes you stronger. Whereas I think before I was like, if a challenge comes up, there must be something wrong.
Welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We have entered spring. Cinch up your Speedos because we are on our way.
Cinch up your Speedos.
Hell yes.
Is that because we've lost weight and we're like tightening them in? Because that's not what happened to me. Let me tell you, I got to let out my Speedos. In fact, I'm not wearing Speedos. I'm wearing a muumuu to the beach. That's okay. It's all right.
I just bought a bigger pair.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, here we are.
Welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We are motoring through 2021.
We are.
Yeah,
we sure are. But I do love spring. It's actually one of my favourite seasons.
Why is that?
Well, my birthday's in spring, number one. Though I just love coming out. There's always something so beautiful coming out of the winter. And you start to smell the jasmine in the air and you get those longer sunny days and the blue sky. And yeah, there's just a feeling around spring of renewal, which I think we all need to feel right now.
Yeah, some new beginnings.
New beginnings.
Yeah.
Love a new beginning.
Are you going to start something new this spring? Are you going to do something new?
Not that I know of.
It's yet to be TBD.
Yet to be decided. I may think on that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We have Maddy, Tyers and Jimmy Eaton coming into the bathroom for a good chat. They met when they were both working at the Starlight Foundation and quickly bonded over their shared love of Lego, and soon they were engaged, complete with a Lego-themed wedding. I cannot wait to hear about this Lego-themed wedding.
They live in one of the coolest suburbs in Melbourne, being Brunswick. Great coffee and burgers. They live and breathe creativity in their daily lives. They've got their YouTube channel, and you might have seen them on TV in the hit show Lego Masters.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure there's been a lot of fun and laughter between the two of them. They're very light-hearted people. Maddy's been really honest and open about her experience with an eating disorder, and she's written a book titled When Anna Came to Stay, and it's aimed at children around age 6 to 12. And we're going to talk to her about that. I think it's a really important topic.
Well, let's get into it. Let's welcome Maddy, Tyers and Jimmy Eaton to the bathroom.
Maddy and Jimmy, welcome into our bathroom, our separate bathrooms, which is not so separate, but welcome.
Oh, hey, thank you for having us. It smells beautiful.
Well, let's start at the beginning, like we always do with our gorgeous couples. Take us through the first time you two actually met.
Great question, Alison. We, going back, I would say a good 8.5 years now. Jimmy and I met working for the Starlight Children's Foundation. So, yeah, we're both actors, performers, big kids at heart. And, yeah, we were working as Captain Starlights in the Royal Children's Hospital here in Melbourne. And, yeah, I think it sort of started in Jimmy. I think we can test this a little bit.
Yeah, I've got to say, I was pretty nervous. Maddy was the new employee in the workplace, and I'd never dated anyone from the workplace. You know, there's a lot of warnings saying, don't mix business with pleasure. So I was very nervous because, if I asked her on a date and she said, no, you've got to work with that. You've got to rock back up to work going, oh, I feel so awkward. But I believe I asked you out on a date. Is that correct?
I feel like I did. We've never really got to the bottom of this. I feel like there was some kind of text exchange around covering a shift. And I think I asked you for a drink, but you seem to think you asked me for a drink. Anyway, the rest is history. We went for that drink and here we are, eight years later.
I've got to say, though, on that first date, Maddy halfway through said that, I've got to go pick my parents up from the airport. And I thought she was just doing that classic, I've got an excuse, I've got to leave the date. But turns out she liked me. Whew.
I did. And I wasn't lying. There you go.
I love what the Starlight Foundation does with the whole Captain Starlight mythology. So why did you guys both want to be involved with that particular foundation?
Yeah, really good question, Elle. I started, so Jimmy's still at Starlight. You're working in a different capacity there now as a content creator. But I started, it would have been, 2014? And you were a few years prior to me. For me, I've always worked and loved working with kids. So prior to Starlight, I had my own kids' birthday party business and, had kind of run my own sort of show for a while. And, yeah, I saw it advertised, the role, and I was like, this couldn't be a better fit for me. Hanging out with kids, being a big kid myself, and obviously using our performance skills as well. So yeah, it was a pretty phenomenal part of my life. I was there for 5 years, and obviously met Jimmy. And
I moved over from Perth. I was and still am a comedian, and moved over to Melbourne thinking I'm going to be able to get my sitcom within the week. I'm going to be able to live off comedy easy, and then realised after about 2 weeks, hang on, this, unless you just like a free beer for rocking up, that's about how much money you're going to make out of that. So I just went, I needed work, to be honest. I needed work. But then suddenly I worked for this organisation where first day they were like, you've got to play Mario Kart for your first shift. And I thought, this is the job for me. I'm a massive child. And 10 years on, I'm still there working as a producer, creating videos for kids. It's so much fun.
Fantastic. Tell us about, how did the love of the Lego come up between you? Who mentioned it first?
Yeah. So the Lego thing, I reckon, came into our relationship maybe a year or two in. We had a New Year's where I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Jimmy, I think all our plans got cancelled and we're like,
And this was before COVID.
Yeah,
so we thought we'd have a night off because, we'll have plenty more New Year's Eve where we can go out and party. Now we're like, we should have gone out.
Why did we not do that?
I think we just bought a Lego set and, had a few wines and started building Lego and thought, this is a really fun thing to do. It's very meditative.
Yeah.
It really takes your mind off everything else that's, flying around work and news and, oh, God. And just to be able to focus on this thing and do it together, it was lovely.
Yeah. And we'd also been, I think, one of our sort of first-ish dates had been to the movies to see the Lego movie, as you do.
It's quite funny. We rocked up and I think the people at the cinema looked at us and went, where are your children?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have any?
They still do that to this day because we don't have kids yet, but we still do a lot of toy buying. And
stuff. But I'm just lucky. I think all the men out there listening are going, oh, my God, he's found a wife that lets him still buy toys. And sometimes, if he's good enough, she'll play with him as well. But I mean, fast forward, and then suddenly all these people started letting us know about this thing, that Lego Masters. And we were like, what are you talking about? Is this some kind of prank? Everybody knows we love Lego. Everyone's just telling us there's this imaginary show that we get to build Lego. But lo and behold, it was this real show.
Yeah, pretty hilarious. And we'd also kind of around that time that audition started for the show, we'd just got married as well, and we'd had a Lego themed wedding as well because we were like, why the hell not? Every one of our friends and family know we're massive kids. Let's just inject a bit of fun into the wedding. So that was a bit of a thing too. So, and to this day, we do obviously still play a lot of Lego, but play and being a big kid has always remained something, that we kind of hold strong to our hearts in our relationship, really.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the key to survival, both mentally and everything else. Being able to just have a bit of play really stops you from becoming, a human ball of stress.
So when you got married, Jimmy, were you like, when you say Lego themed, were you like Lego Batman?
Oh mate, I wish that would have been so cool. There are a few rules. We had a really big fun wedding. We just wanted to have a party with all of our friends. There were Lego elements, so we had all this Lego on the tables, and some of the invites were made into instructions, like those old instructions you have from the Lego sets. But I think if I got my way, it would have been a lot more nerdy. But Maddy drew the line, I think. I wanted to have stormtroopers, Star Wars stormtroopers as security guards because, of course, we got married on May the 4th. So I thought, let's get some Star Wars, let's get some bouncers that are Star Wars stormtroopers. Unfortunately, every single Star Wars fan was already booked. It was May the 4th. But I think, if a good tip for husbands-to-be is make sure you have a wedding on a date that is, just jumps out at you. So every time it's May the 4th, I'm never going to forget that it's our wedding anniversary. Or if I do, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, we got married on December the 7th, which was, and this was an accident too. It wasn't planned, but it was my parents' wedding anniversary, and it was their 30th wedding anniversary that we got married on. And coming up this December, it's our 30th wedding anniversary. So that's got to be something.
And their
special.
60th.
And their 60th.
Congratulations.
I love that. Congrats.
Yeah, crazy.
How much does humour help with conflict? Not that you guys seem to have any conflict going in your relationship.
Oh no, we do.
Never, ever.
we really do.
Never argue. Maddy never yells at me. It's perfect.
No, look, we have, and I think this year in particular, Cam, like it's been, I think, we've learnt a lot from each other more than we sort of ever have because we've spent so much
actually.
Compressed time with each other. But definitely humour's been is one of the sort of I suppose foundations of our relationship. We use it every day. Like I don't think without having a laugh, how can you get through? It's particularly at the moment when things are so bleak and so kind of it's hard to be optimistic. I think just injecting a little bit of fun and humour into our lives is really key.
I think it's really important to be able to have a good cry every now and again, but a good laugh as well.
Yeah.
We had a laugh the other day, and I almost felt like I was going insane because it was such a release. And I think that's one survival method for me is make Maddy laugh, and then I get out of trouble. So
Yeah. Maddy, you wrote a book called When Anna Came to Stay. Can you tell us about the book and why you wrote it?
Yeah, of course. So, Ali, I wrote this book, When Anna Came to Stay, going back quite a few years ago now. It's only just sort of hit the shelves this year. But it is, I suppose, it's based on my kind of experience and my story as a young person. 8 years old, I sort of started down quite a dark path of body image, negative body image issues and food obsession that sort of led to a eating disorder as a teenager that, lasted 15 or so years. So I'm sort of at the very much the through line sort of now. I've come through recovery in a really good place, but it's certainly something that took up a huge portion of my childhood. And obviously having worked for the Starlight Children's Foundation and seeing, I suppose, over the years, the rise in eating disorders and terrible, self-esteem issues in young kids grow, it really sort of inspired me to sort of put pen to paper and write and sort of share that in the hopes that if it could start a conversation with a young person or family that's going through something similar, that they could potentially nip it in the bud earlier. Because, my issue started at 8, but it wasn't until I was 16 that I was diagnosed. So it was an 8-year sort of process of these habits really kind of solidifying, becoming really quite toxic behaviours. So, this book is told from the lens of a child, May, who's the protagonist, and she's visited by when her life sort of seems to come out of control, she's visited by this character called Anna. And it's, I suppose, a metaphor for an eating disorder. It could be seen as anxiety as well. But
That's what I love about your book,
Yeah.
is it's very fabulistic and written for little kids, so it could be anything.
Yeah,
it could be an anxiety.
Yeah, and about how this sort of older, strong personality comes in and sort of begins to dictate May's behaviours and how she feels about herself. And, that very much was a huge part of my life in terms of my thought processes and the negative voices in my head. And then the book sort of moves through that sort of process, and then how May's able to gather the strength with the help of her friends and family to tell Anna to go away and she doesn't need her anymore. And so, it's been an amazing experience. I've, the book's sort of been out, for about 5 or 6 months now, and I'm just hoping it sort of gets into the right hands. But I have heard some lovely kind of anecdotes from schools and kids that have read it and sort of, said that, I have similar feelings, or I have a voice in my head like that too. And it's, that's sort of my hope with the book, is sort of, to start that conversation with kids as early as possible.
And you know that you've made it because you got a photo of a kid had dressed up as your character
Oh,
for
yeah.
Book Week.
Yes, it was Book Week last week. It was so adorable.
She's made
Anna-
it.
Oh, that you have made
was
it. That's
so
amazing.
sweet, actually.
Oh, how
Made it.
lovely.
It's the sign.
There was two siblings, and one had dressed up as May from my book and was holding my book, and the other sister was Wendy from Where's Wally, and I was like, I feel like I've reached the highest kind of caliber.
Rubbing shoulders with Where's Wally?
I was very chuffed. So really, really special.
So with books like yours, do you think that society is changing its views on eating disorders?
Yeah, absolutely, Cam. I think it's definitely, there's a lot of work, a long way to come still. But in saying that, I think just mental illness as a whole the conversation and dialogue has become a lot more prevalent in society. And, particularly in the last 18 months, as horrible as lockdown and COVID has been, I think it has made people speak up a little bit more about those horrible feelings sort of we have. But look, eating disorders are still, they're incredibly prevalent. They don't discriminate with gender, age, cultural background, religion. Like, they affect everyone and anyone. And we're sort of seeing more and more data come out that shows young boys being affected by the same things. So, I think it's an education that needs to continue to kind of develop in schools. I'm very fortunate to work. I do a bit of work with the Butterfly Foundation as well as an ambassador there, and go into schools and do some talks with primary and high school kids about body image. And they've just launched a new program called Body Bright, and that's kind of like an educational program that they're rolling out across the country, just to kind of, start that conversation really early with as young as preppies about, feelings about our body and how our body works, and to accept ourselves for who we are. So, I think for me personally, going back to the 90s was when I kind of had issues sort of started to kick off. But I sort of think, had something like that been around, or, my book as well, could that have potentially started that conversation with my parents earlier? Because, they were unsure of what it was as well. So, look, I think we've come a very long way in that time, but there's still a lot of work and a long way to come yet too.
We have our eldest daughter she's had a lot of anxiety through her life. It's been a real challenge for her, and she's got a book that she refers back to all the time. It's just called Dealing with It, and it's written from the perspective of this little kind of monster, which is the anxiety. And it's a book that just resonated with her because it's written to her. It's not like a clinical book about anxiety. And it sounds very similar, what you've written. It's sort of a book that a child can read and feel related in a sense, because another child's sort of dealing with the same things. So I think that's such a smart and wonderful way to go about writing a book.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Ali. And it's so interesting. I will have to look up Dealing with It. It sounds spot on. And for me, my one of the main steps in my recovery journey was, working obviously a lot with psychologists. But one of the things that helped me the most was separating myself or my thoughts from me. So I did give anorexia, the name Anna, and that was a way for me to separate myself from these toxic thoughts I was having. And I really like that you can do the same with anxiety, like calling it or calling it monster or whatever it is. Like as a kid, it's a really kind of, I suppose, visual way of going, oh, this isn't actually me. These aren't my thoughts. This is this intrusive person or this intrusive thing that's come in and kind of taking over and sort of separating yourself. So it's very similar. And I think it certainly helped me and it sounds like it's helping your daughter as well, which is so good to hear.
Are you still affected by anorexia? Does it still control you, or not control you, but it is still sort of inform decisions that you make today? And how does that work within your relationship?
Absolutely. Look, it's something that, like I said, I'm in a really healthy, happy place right now, despite, probably a few meltdowns the last couple of weeks. But look, it's something that I'm going to be dealing with, I think, for the rest of my life.
We've all had those, by the way.
Good. I'm not the only one. But look, definitely, I think it's something that I need to manage. I sort of compare an eating disorder to an addiction of some description, be it alcohol, drugs, gambling. It's something that I used as a form of control and to control my emotions, but also that made me feel good. It was like an endorphin release when I would have like listened to these thoughts and kind of punish myself. And so learning to sort of step away from that, it's incredibly tough, but it's also something that I'm just going to have to monitor. I think, I know that when tough situations arise and when I'm in a stress sort of environment, that often food and my body and kind of negative sort of thoughts kind of arise. I'm really fortunate. Jimmy's very, very aware of my issues, and he's, incredibly sensitive towards them and sort of can sort of see signs of when things aren't kind of potentially going very well.
Yeah.
But we do have a very open, honest dialogue between the two of us because we both suffer from mental illness, I think, like most people on the planet, and we have our up and our down days. My eating and food and stuff is my kind of vice, and Jimmy has his, and we kind of just try and support each other as best we can. But amazingly, writing this book and getting it out and talking about it has been quite a therapeutic thing for me as well in that sense. And it's started a lot of conversations with family and friends that I had no idea went through similar things when they were kids. My auntie included, who's well into her 70s, who's kind of seen me go through my journey and then come out the other end and gone, wow, like I think I suffered from very much a similar thing as a teenager, but it was undiagnosed and kind of left. So, it's really interesting. It's been a great conversation starter, and it's, helped sort of us kind of work through a lot of those things as well. And
absolutely. Just understanding what people are going through and discovering that not everyone's exactly the same as you, and how you process things, I think, is so helpful. Maddy and I have even done marriage counselling, which we found really helpful. And it wasn't because we were in a crisis, which was kind of weird. We just kind of went, our marriage is going really good, but there's some certain things that I think we'd love to address. Why don't we just see a counsellor and have a chat so we can have this sort of discussion and learn these things through a counsellor? And it's been great. And I think a lot of people are like, I think we told some friends, we went to marriage counselling. They're like, oh my God, are you guys okay?
Yeah.
If you need any help, it's like, no, we're great. We're great. And I think that's what's so wonderful about marriage counselling and counselling in general, is just being able to talk to someone who doesn't have that bias inbuilt is just so helpful. And I think now we know the signs. Like, I know I've got my list of things when Maddy's, going really stressed out. I know what helps and what I thought helped but doesn't necessarily.
We're still working that out for both of us at times as well.
We're pretty close to perfect, though.
Yeah.
So we've had 30 years and we're still figuring it out. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
What?
Definitely.
You haven't won marriage after 30 years? You haven't completed it?
No, we've actually been married twice.
I love that. Double the fun, guys.
And lots of therapy.
Yeah. I think the other thing is that change is okay. The relationship's allowed to develop and become different. I think that was my failing in a lot of my early relationships was like, oh, I've got this great relationship, it's wonderful. And then, obviously you spend a few months with the person and it's like, oh no, it's not the same as this beautiful thing that we had to begin with. But realizing that you're allowed to evolve and you can go through a bit of a journey, that just opened up. That made me grow so much relationship-wise, I think. And I think we had an argument once and you were like, you don't have to be perfect all the time. You don't have to be funny. You don't have to make me laugh.
Yeah.
You don't have to perform for me and keep me pleased. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
That's another therapy session.
I think
where
that made me go,
unpacking.
oh wow, it's okay to have quiet times. It's okay to be bored together sometimes. You don't have to be perfect all the time. And I think that's great. It makes it exciting. It makes you appreciate, when you're having a great time. And you are allowed to have challenges. I think that makes you stronger. Whereas I think before I was like, if a challenge comes up, there must be something wrong.
Yeah.
We do a segment called the 2-minute shower. We save water in the 2-minute shower. Keep your answers crisp and let's go.
Love it.
Ali, you do the first one.
Okay. What do you love most about each other?
I love Jimmy's humour. Yeah, that's definitely my favourite thing.
And Jim?
Maddy keeps me honest. She's got a very good bullshit meter. I can't get anything by her.
All right. Is there a moment in time that you would like to revisit?
Ooh, good question. A moment in time. Oh, I often sort of lament about my kind of teen years, just sort of dabbling back to what we were talking about earlier and go, oh, would it be good to redo high school? And then I'm like, nah. But I think for me, it's interesting. I think the wedding, I'd love to relive our wedding, but be guests.
Yeah.
Because it was such a fun day, but it went so quick.
I was going to say something massively childish like when we went to Disneyland, but I think I'm the same. Our wedding was a blur. I didn't eat and didn't drink anything because of that adrenaline and it just went so fast. I'd love to just sit up the back of our wedding and watch it and experience it as a guest. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great answer. I love that. What does your perfect day look like?
Ooh, perfect day for me would be dog walk in the morning with a delicious coffee or chai. I think probably a visit to a cinema when they're open, seeing one of like a movie, and some delicious dinner. I reckon like maybe some takeaway sushi in a park somewhere. Heaven.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll go with Maddie's answer.
That's why you married.
I can't do better than that.
What would you most like to make out of Lego?
Ooh, good question.
This is probably like some massive castle with a dragon. I think, it's such a nerdy, childish thing to say, but that was what fascinated me as a 4-year-old with Lego. And so to go back and make those things that I made as a kid, but now make them with my adult skill, that would be pretty cool.
Oh, for me, I reckon probably like we got eliminated from Lego Masters having built the scene from The Exorcist. So I'd probably like to give that another crack, but do it better.
I love it. All right, what's your best quality?
Oh, I think for me, maybe my empathy. I think I've got a really good ability to sort of read other people and sort of how they're feeling, and I think maybe.
Yeah. Wow.
What about you?
Probably my creativity. I think that's my money maker and the thing that keeps me going is creating stuff.
Who do you admire?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I think 12 months, before lockdown, I probably would have said some Hollywood actor, but going through all of this, I'm going to have to say my grandma. She's 96 and she lives on her own and she's got through COVID own and has not whinged once. She's the most resilient human on the planet, and I just admire her so much. And
Yeah.
Apart from my wife, I would someone like Robin Williams, I think, is just someone who I'm so inspired by, and just that perfect comedian, but also that incredible serious actor. I think is absolutely Robin Williams. After you, Maddy.
thanks, babe.
What the world needs now is.
That is many things, Ali, but I think primarily, compassion toward one another. I think we're living in such a time of divide, more than I've ever seen or experienced in my life. I think we need to really just slow down and listen to each other and be a little bit more compassionate across the board.
Yeah.
And I think tolerance as well. I think, like you said, everybody's like, it's my ideas or the highway, Like, I think back in the day, parents would go to parties and be like, just don't talk about religion or politics and we'll all get on and have a lovely barbecue. But now I think people are like, unless you have my exact set of values, I'm not going to fraternize with you. And I'm not saying, go extreme, but I think there just needs to be a bit more understanding. And sometimes being able to go, oh, that's fine, that's your opinion,
Yep, I couldn't agree more.
Brilliant answers. Describe your partner in one word.
Oh, God.
Sunshine.
Oh.
So just sunshine. She is just like when she walked down the aisle, I played the Beatles. I got my friend to press a play button that played a recording of the Beatles' Here Comes the Sun. And that's what Maddy is. She just lights up the room.
Yeah.
And just does everything to help anyone. If Maddy doesn't help you, you have got to have done something terrible, because you're just so friendly to everyone. And she's the best.
No.
Just a little ball of sunlight.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I think for you, Jimmy, I think
Gas.
Gas. Yeah, very true.
You two are really alike, as in Cam and Jimmy.
Yeah. Oh my God. A little bit of gas, but mostly, you're my rock, I think. Jimmy's my rock, and always has been from day one.
What's that? I look like the Rock. Thank you.
I also love the rock. No, you've always got my back no matter what. And I, like Jimmy said, I wouldn't have got through the last 2 years without him as well. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us in the bathroom. Maddy, Tyers, Jimmy, Eaton, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you both so much. It's been lovely.
It's been wonderful. Thanks for having us.
And you're both very sunshiny, actually. It's just gorgeous. Thank you.
Aw. Thank you, guys.
What a fantastic couple. I imagine being called Sunshine. What a gorgeous description.
Yeah,
From Jimmy to Maddy. Loved that.
It clearly affected her. I think she got a little emotional.
I know. I think they
Interesting,
both
yeah.
did, actually. Just wish them nothing but the best. Create a great career for themselves and stuff, and have numerous children that will be hilariously funny and little tiny bits of sunshine.
And very creative.
That
What they will have to do, though, is to remind their kids to pick the Lego up off the floor, because to stand on one of those things at 3 a.m. with bare feet is not great.
Absolutely.
I love that they have so much fun. And that's been a sort of the fabric of their marriage. It's really good.
Keeping the fun, keeping the childlike enthusiasm alive is a big one.
Yeah. Let's keep that going, especially through these very strange times.
Very strange indeed. Thank you so much for listening, and join us next week on Separate Bathrooms.
Head to Nova Podcasts, grab that app, because there's a treasure trove of great podcasts in there to listen to. We will catch up with you next time. Bye for now.